The Hogan Anticoke is a lacrosse magician.
He's never seen a lacrosse game. Or to a lacrosse fan who hasn't seen Albany, don't touch that dial. The Thompsons of Albany, Muncie Theater, they will excite you, they will mesmerize you.
Native Americans in the sport of lacrosse is probably the best kept secret in all of sports. Most people outside of lacrosse see it as a white prep school elitist kind of sport, and don't really realize it was played by Native Americans thousands of years before Europeans found the New World and brought hardship and suffering to the original people of these lands, the effects of which are still being felt today by the Native community. Lacrosse remains a source of pride for the Iroquois, or Haudenosaunee people, however, and sometimes their pathway to a better life. Over the last month, I interviewed Syracuse and Iroquois national team legends Brendan Bomberry, Warren Hill, and Cody Jameson about their experiences growing up and the obstacles they have faced. Here's what they have to say. So you grew up on the reservation, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me just a little bit about like what that was like the nature of your childhood, any challenges you faced growing up?
I think that for me, I consider myself very lucky. You know, my parents did everything that they could to make sure that I had everything that I need. But, you know, there's a lot of people who, you know, didn't have those things or weren't as lucky. You know, the biggest thing for me, and I look back at my childhood, I probably lived in 26 houses before the time I was like 14. We were kind of always moving. And, you know, the thing about our reservations is, you know, they don't get any bigger, right? We can't go off and we can't get new land. So our population grows and the housing situation becomes a little difficult. So, you know, that was something that I always kind of, obviously being little, you didn't really think about those things. But now that growing up and being a part of it and looking for housing and doing stuff on that as an older, I start to understand it more, how that is such a, you know, a big, you know, problem in our communities where, you know, there's not a lot of, you know, housing for people. We don't have clean drinking water. So my entire life, we'd always have to go and buy, you know, filtered water or bottled water to be able to drink and to cook. But if you drive down the road 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes, as soon as you get off the reserve, you can drink that top water. So, you know, those are the types of things that, you know, people on the reservation deal with. You know, we don't receive a lot of help from, you know, whether it be the state or the province in Canada or whatever. So, you know, obviously that, you know, puts kids behind and puts them, you know, kind of at a disadvantage and go off to college and do those types of things. So it's really difficult for them to kind of get through those types of things.
Growing up here in Six Nations, again, Native Reserve in Canada, population of about 18,000. But we still face our own adversities here in the community, whether that be economical, drug and alcoholism. Like, unfortunately, that's still prevalent in our community, but it's kind of everywhere. But at the same time, like, this community is so tight, and the different, again, like the adversities we have to go through as Native people, whether that be residential schools, life under reserve, different things like that has made this community tighter and stronger, and right down to the individual families.
I didn't grow up on the reserve at the start. I lived in Hamilton with my parents. At a young age, we moved back home here to the res where they are both from. So, you know, we finally got to rent a house. There isn't a lot of housing. There still isn't a lot of housing. It's kind of a thing, you know, on all reserves, but especially this one, you know, this one's one of the biggest ones in Canada. So moved to the res here at I think I was in the fourth grade. Grew up playing lacrosse, playing sports. You know, I never went to school on the reserve. We lived right on the boundary line. So my parents wanted me to go to school off the reserve. I just thought it was a better education if I went off reserve rather than on reserve.
Most kids, even on and off reserve, like school was a struggle. And the biggest kind of challenge I had was not learning how to read or write until I was in 7th, 8th grade. I went to an immersion school, which was great. I learned my own language, but at the time it didn't give me the tools to kind of prosper. And from grade 6, 7, like when everybody else was writing full sentences and can read books, I was still learning how to spell cat, dog, things like that, right? So elementary, I was in special education. Doing my baby steps and then having to work and go through all those tiers to get to a university level. It's getting better, but in years past, the much like other kind of minority communities, the graduation rate out of high school has never been great. It's picking up now. Like I said, we have infrastructure in place, and people, they don't have to just go and work construction or go and build houses or go and do ironworking and stuff like that. Like now we're starting, like we have our own teachers. We're getting more people that are becoming doctors, and a lot of people that came before me laid that groundwork. And now to be a part of it and kind of be that influence or role model in our community is others taking that first leap.
Being the first person in my family to go to college, go to university, that was a big thing for my immediate family as well. In my immediate family here, my grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and brothers, their brothers and sisters, aunt and uncles, I was the first person to kind of leave and go do that.
Being a Haudenosaunee person who plays and was given this game by my ancestors, it's something that I take so much pride in, to be able to share that with other people and to kind of share the background. And, this game has taken me to so many places. It was a vehicle for me to kind of continue on with my education, to get a degree. Honestly, if I didn't have lacrosse, I probably wouldn't have gotten it through. I struggled in school. To be able to kind of use lacrosse to help me get through that was something that I needed for sure. And then now looking back at it after, I'm still playing now and then all that stuff, but, after my career is passing it on to the next generation and teaching players and coaches and just, people in general about the origins of the game and where it comes from and what it means and what kind of effects it can have. One of my favorite things to do is to do school visits or camps or stuff with other Native Americans who aren't really familiar with lacrosse, but because they know that it comes from Native American roots, a light bulb goes off in their heads and they love it, so much that they kind of have that connection to the game. And it's something that inspires me, and that's what I want to do with my life is to be able to, inspire kids and show kids those types of things so that, they can use this game. It's not the big money maker, it's not basketball, it's not hockey, it's not baseball, but it's a game that always has and always will be more than about money. So for me, just kind of, I played at the Hill Academy, and we played a lot of prep schools, majority of them white, and all those types of things, and pretty elite areas, with, big houses and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of saw that. What kind of bothered me the most is like just the way they treated the game, just thinking about how my family and how I've been brought up to kind of, honor and respect the game and to kind of go and see, I don't want to say they took advantage, but they definitely weren't honoring the game. Maybe not their fault because they didn't know the background and the whole meaning and all that kind of stuff, but just to kind of see them treating the game the way that they did, just kind of being arrogant and just like not treating the game with respect is the best way I can kind of put it. I didn't really have interactions because there wasn't really anything that kind of pointed me out as different, but I know I had teammates who, had ponytails. That's a huge part of our culture, is growing out our hair, and that's a part of us. For me, I wasn't able to grow my hair like that. Instead of growing down in a ponytail, I grew up like in a fro. So but my friends did, and they faced a lot of backlash of kids telling them to cut their hair, they look like a girl, all these different types of things. And those things always bothered me because with residential schools and boarding schools where the Catholic Church would take Native American kids, from their homes to try and assimilate them into white culture, they were made to shave their hair and cut their hair. So that's a very dehumanizing thing, I guess you could say, of, making sure your hair was cut so that it was, you couldn't tell you apart. And that was kind of something that, it bothered my friends, and like, it bothered me because I was fine. I was no different because I didn't have anything that set me apart, but my friends didn't. And it hurt me because I know that, I'm the same as them. I come from the same place. I have the same beliefs as them, but I wasn't able to kind of be there and help them or experience that with them.
Again, truthfully, growing up here in Six Nations, obviously being around that history and that tradition of the game, I personally never experienced it until I was much older. Again, lacrosse being a medicine game to our people and being a big part of who we are in our culture, I didn't know that side. So to me, lacrosse was always been our game. And again, like all sports, there's always fans or a player saying that. Honestly, it was preached to us at a young age that who we are in the world we live in, that racism is going to come up. Hopefully it doesn't, but you may encounter that, just like other minorities and culturally different communities or people, right? That's not a great mindset either. We shouldn't have to worry about it or think of it that way. We should never have to come to that. But again, growing up here in Six Nations and being a Native person, I've heard stories from my grandfather who played the game and the racial remarks and taunts that he had to face. But I think we're going in the right direction, but still it's not totally vanquished, and we all know that. But taking steps to educate and pretty much make a stand and say it's not right and to call it out where we see it, again, like I think everyone, we're all going in the right direction. Personally, again, being fortunate enough, being kind of sheltered and having great people, like fortunate enough to have great people in lacrosse or teammates and stuff like that who got it. And I believe that is a big part of the education that people are having nowadays, where I have teammates that have my back and understand where this game comes from, right? And who we are. And that also translates to other minorities and having open-mindedness to other communities. But I guess the one thing I will say, like obviously we just had Halloween, right? But it kind of made me think of when I was at school, again, like not to throw this person under the bus, I'm not going to name which school, which team, but a teammate of ours dressed up as an Indian for Halloween, and we didn't make a stink about it, and there was other natives on the team, but we just kind of had that conversation with them afterwards, like we seen them post it, to let them know like that's not right and that we didn't appreciate it. Again, like not throw the guy under the bus, and honestly, like just where we are, like people don't know, and I know that's a touchy subject, but again, just him having the understanding and apologizing. And most recently, I would have to say the Every Child Matters movement, right? So like, unfortunately, that's a black kind of a black eye here in Canada of the thousands of different nations and Native communities that were forced to send their children to residential schools, Indian boarding schools, and the stuff and the stories you hear that go on there within those walls is pretty horrific. And unfortunately, some of those children never made it home. And having athletes, not just in lacrosse, but also like other sports, hockey or what have you, to use their platforms to kind of spread awareness of this. Like we've always known it. So like I have grandparents and different relatives who's gone through those school systems. The last one closed in 1996. We've always kind of known that history, but the more kind of research and data that's come out, and like to hear the stories, like again with the power of social media and media in general to get these stories out, like it was definitely it brings some anger and sadness and grief, right? But I think to educate ourselves, even going back to the whole racism stuff in sport, or like how we were saying, like just the way society's going and pushing forward, and knowing that this stuff is not tolerated. I think the power of sport, and particularly lacrosse here in Canada, players and coaches have been able to use their platforms on social media or in their communities to spread awareness of this issue. And I think it's something that everyone should anyways learn about, just so we can avoid it again, right? So we don't have to go through that, and to also just spread awareness of the hardships that Native people in Canada had to go through and are still going through, and that those residential schools played a big part into why our communities struggle with alcoholism and addictions and stuff like that, right? Like I'm currently a social worker, and I'm a youth counselor at a mental health facility. And just from my experience and just the different trainings and knowledge I've gained working in that field, like a lot of times, like a lot of these issues can stem from that time in history, and it's a trickle down effect, right? And again, like it's not just Native communities, it could be other things in other minority communities, like whether that be poverty or living in low income neighborhoods and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, growing up, I was always, like I said, I started in Hamilton, and there was only 3 natives on the team. Being the only 3, we were outcasted. It was always everybody else and their families go over this way, and us and our families would kind of go that way. And growing up, I didn't know why, but nowadays I can kind of see it. They were going out to eat, and we had to pack our lunches. And at tournaments, we couldn't afford to go to the restaurants and eat with everybody else, or we couldn't afford to stay the night at the hotel that all the other kids were staying at. So I felt like I was ostracized by it, but there wasn't intent or malice intent or anything like that from my teammates. I felt like I was the outcast. I felt like the awkward one, not getting asked over to sleepovers and stuff like that. Like that's, I don't know, I can't explain that, but it would have been nice to do that growing up with everybody else. And obviously you hear things throughout the ranks. Kids are pretty aggressive sometimes, and things get said on the floor that sometimes they mean and sometimes they don't. So I really really, like, I have children now, so I try to say that we live by the golden rule and just treat people the way you want to be treated. But back when I was growing up, it was a different time, and a lot of things were said. It didn't necessarily hurt me at the time because I was playing lacrosse, and I just thought, well, it's because I'm better than you that you're kind of saying these things. And the more I look back at it, maybe it was something else, but I kind of grew from it and used it as motivation to keep getting better, because at the time they were saying things, I was maybe scoring more than them or whatever. So I just tried not to deal with it too much. Probably the biggest one was when I was at Syracuse. The one that made me the most upset was when I was at Syracuse, and we were playing Denver. We were at Syracuse at home, and we were playing Denver. And Lon Pole started calling me, like, go back to your res, you savage, and stuff like that, because we were older, and he should have known better, and that kind of stuff doesn't belong, in the game, in any sport.
And what about some of your teammates, other Native Americans? Have you heard any stories about them facing any kind of discrimination?
Yes, I roomed with, when I was at Syracuse, Jeremy Thompson was my roommate, and he would get a lot of teasing and a lot of stuff because he has traditionally long hair. So he would get teasing and mocked or calling him a girl or things like that. And maybe even a bigger story was when his brother Lyle, who I'm good friends with now, professional game, in a professional game, the announcer was yelling to snip the braid, and he felt like outcast and like obviously pinpoint it as in a racial slur kind of type thing, with the whole crowd chanting, snip the braid. And he knew that they were talking about him, and using his culture and his hair as a tool to try to get at him or whatever. It's always it's there and it's out there. We just try to look past it.
If you didn't have lacrosse, where do you think you would be?
I think I'd be working construction or kind of doing something that they're typical. And I mean that is like, lacrosse has taken me a lot of ways. It's been a vehicle for me to get an education and to like kind of see the world. So pretty big gratitude to the sport, and like take it very seriously, because I know without it, I might not have gone on to college or university. I might not have left province of Ontario here. I might just be like, again, like, unfortunately, like some of the still stuff we see here on the reserve is just being a homebody. And like I said, maybe I'd be in construction or welding. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. But
yeah,
I know that this has opened up different doors. You watch NFL or NBA documentaries and how they talk about their athletes, and as a way for them to keep them off the streets. And like I said much before, alcoholism and drug abuse and different addictions are still prevalent in our community, and all it takes is to hang out with the wrong crowd on the wrong day, and who knows what could happen. So lacrosse has definitely been a tool of mine to keep me on the right path, so to speak. So I'm fortunate for that, and like I said, my life would probably be pretty different.
It's hard for me because I've been so ingrained with athletics my whole life. If I wasn't playing lacrosse, I'd probably be playing hockey, to be honest. But I guess if I didn't have athletics at all, I would guess I would be, maybe a teacher or something to kind of help youth. That's what I enjoy doing, is doing those types of things, to camps or clinics or just talks in general with our youth kids. I was in their position at one point, so to kind of have it come full circle and me have a chance to kind of give back and do those things, I take a lot of pride in it. It's a lot of fun for me to kind of share my experiences and that kind of stuff. So I enjoy doing that a lot. So I'd probably say a teacher, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for your time, man. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, man, no problem at all.
Of course. Good luck this season with the Thunderbirds.
Thank you. Good luck on your project.
Yes, thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. No problem.
Bye.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and good luck with your class. I hope you do well. Hopefully your teacher gives you an A.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good day.
You have a good one too.
Bye.
Bye.